The first thing that every expat should consider is this: your last year, your first year. Your last year in the States, your first year in the States. Your last year in the States is going to go by swiftly, and your first year in your new country is going to go by swiftly. Do not think that those will not go by fast. Your last year in the States, you should start getting paperwork together, like your birth certificate, like your, if you are not married, there is a form that most of us don't know about in the State Department called the affidavit of singleness. You can get it downtown from anybody from anywhere to prove that you are single. It's an affidavit that's used globally to prove that you don't have a wife in one country and then trying to marry somebody else in another country. If you eventually are looking to get married, maybe 5-10 years down the line, it's called the affidavit of singleness, which is proof that you are single in one country and not married to somebody in another country. You also want to make sure that you have your insurance policies. Make sure that you got, I don't care if it's a cheap insurance or an expensive insurance. Make sure while you're in the States, get your insurance policies, because you can't sign a U.S. insurance policy outside of the U.S. So while you're there, get your U.S. Life insurance policy taken care of. Also, when you're about to leave the States, make sure you got all your medical records or your dental records. You know, if you got braces, things like that, make sure that you have any medical records that you may have. Now, if you don't have any, cool, that's great. But if you're a person that does have some, make sure that you have a copy of those things to take with you as well. So your last year, you're just going to be gathering things. Also, your last year, 90% of the stuff that you plan on bringing with you, you will not need. Yes, most of the countries that we're going to already have everything that you need. Austin, when I came to Colombia, man, I come with like 35 toothpaste, 15 toothbrushes. I'm coming down with gigantic Walmart crates and carts. I'm walking through the airport. They're actually thinking I've got so much stuff. True story. They thought I was selling this stuff because when I came in, I had so many Walmart crates, carts, and everything. They were like, what? I had to show them my lease to my apartment to let them know that I was moving down here. And then Andrea had to come in to I ended up having to pay like $100,000 tariff fee to actually get my luggage in because I had so much stuff and it looked like I was actually going to sell all this stuff.
100,000 pesos,
which is only $25.
Oh, okay.
You know, with the Colombian dollar, you always, to understand in English, this is what we do. With the you always take the last 3 zeros off, divide by 4. Last 3 zeros off, divide by 4. And that's how you know calculating the Colombian pesos. Just take the last 3 zeros off and then divide by 4. So 100,000 pesos is only $25. So paid the $25, got into the country, and then here's the crazy part, Austin. 90% of the stuff that I brought with me stayed in those crates for almost 4 years. Didn't even need them. Didn't even need them. So, and this irony of it, I call myself packing and unpacking 5 times. No, I don't need this. But I will need it. No, 90% of the stuff that you think that you're going to need, you're buying it because you think that new country might not have those things. And then you get here, you found out, for example, with Colombia and other countries, Amazon delivers. You find out that they have their own version of Costco's, which is Price Mart. You find out that they don't have Dollar Tree. It's called Dollar City, but it's the exact same store. So a lot of things that you panic about really needing in your new country, don't panic, because 9 times out of 10, whatever you had for your daily life in the States or in Canada or UK is in the UK, you probably have that in your new country anyway. Don't make the mistake I made.
Okay. So my second question is cultural integration. How do you approach blending into a new culture without losing your cultural identity? Would you say that's common for people to lose their cultural identity?
To a certain extent, you will. You will, just like a person come to the United States takes on certain cultural identities to acclimate themselves to the States or to Canada or to the UK. So it is, we pick up certain characteristics, certain for in Spanish, certain slang words. We pick up certain ways to eat. Like you were like, I remember the episode you had when you were in Africa and you were eating with your hands for the first time. It's those little things that even though you're American, you'll still pick up certain traits or qualities of your new country, and you want that. You don't want to just be 100% of you. The reason why you got your passport, or any of us got our passports to travel, is to learn new things, new cultures, new way of how people do things. Even you acclimate how to handle women, because how women are in the United States, and you try to handle a woman in Chile or Brazil the same way you deal with women in the States, it may come across different as far as communication. So you still have to find yourself to a certain extent giving up a part of who you are as an American, to be able to acclimate to the community of your new country and your new city.
I would agree. I would agree. While you're answering the question so well, I could even ask a follow back question for that. Okay. So, what parts of what did you have to give up about your cultural identity? Like, what were some things you had to unlearn or adapt to in being in Colombia?
Oh, I got a laundry list. First of all, uh, the misinformation about other cultures. Y You sit back, you come to a new country, and you find out that most of what they told you back home in the United States about a country was a lie. What they told you about modern day Germany, what they told you about Asia, what they told you about South America. You find out that some of the stuff is true, but 90% of it, what you assumed about South America, is trash. That's the first thing that I had to give up, was my misconception about life in South America. You know, remember I just said I brought all that other stuff, boxes and bags and carts of stuff, because I had a misconception of what South America was. Even though I already had my apartment down here waiting for me, I still had a misconception. So I had to get past that. The second thing I had to get past, or give up as far as who I was as an American, was how I dealt with my voice, my tone. As you will know, people in South America, other than sports or in the club, they don't talk loud. They're not loud people unless they're at a party atmosphere, or they're at a sporting event. South American people don't yell you rarely hear them yell across the street. But then you see us Americans, it could be three of us, and we are the loudest ones in the neighborhood. So I had to learn to kind of like tone it back in regards to my tone of how I speak, because here in South America, when you speak loud as an American, it is considered also rude. And now I look at other Americans when they walk into a restaurant, and I kind of like turn my head around like, I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. Because you see how loud, especially sisters. Shout out, well, we love your sisters, but you ladies are extremely loud in other countries. And you don't realize how loud people are while you're in America. But once you leave America and you see how every other country's tones are in public, you start to realize, okay, it's time for me to bring that down a little bit. Have you ever noticed that?
Yes, I've noticed that we stand up very easily when it comes to our volume on how we speak and the things that we choose to say. The way how we
Yeah,
look at things completely different. We definitely have a different mindset. So,
yeah.
about language barriers, can you share some effective strategies for overcoming language barriers when you first moved to a country?
If you are like me and your Espanol is muy mal, trash, right? You have to get to the point where be comfortable with the fact, I'm going to a country and I don't know their slang yet. I might know a little bit of Spanish, or I might know a little bit of Portuguese, or whatever the language is. Be all right with just starting with the little bit that you have. Remember this: communication is 85% body language. Global communication, 85%. Everybody on the planet knows what this is. Everybody knows what this is. Everybody knows what this is. Everybody knows when you kind of describe something, when you're using hand gestures. And so a lot of times when you first start, you might know 5 words of what you're trying to say, but what you're trying to communicate takes 15 words. Don't feel uncomfortable, because people are okay with the fact that you're trying. That's the one thing that I can say, and I know Austin can attest to this when it comes to other countries. They appreciate the fact that you're at least trying. And women think that it's attractive because you are trying. Oh my God, he's trying to He's trying to learn. Let us school him, girl. Let me be the one to groom him. So they want to feel like the ones that they taught you their language or taught you about their food or their culture. So don't feel uncomfortable if you go to a country and when you initially start off, there's a language barrier. That's cool. You know why? Because you are on learner mode. Even if you go to another country and you know the language, now you got to know the slang of that city. I'll give you a story, Austin. A partner of mine who's always in Medellin, he has a girlfriend in Medellin, and they were having to communicate a conversation. And she turned to him, she said, "When'd you go to Bogota?" And he said, "Girl, I ain't never been to Bogota." Now he know he lying. "Girl, I ain't never been to Bogota. What you talking about, girl?" She said, "Babe, that slang that you just used, they only use that in Bogota, Colombia." She said, "That's come I know when you went to Bogota." Uh, uh, I don't know what you're talking about. But he knows that he had gone. In other words, even though you learn the basic Spanish or the basic language of that area, there's some slang to learn in those particular areas, just like different slang that goes on in different parts of the United States. Feel comfortable with that. Don't panic. Don't have anxiety because of your first year or second year of not knowing everything, even when it comes to the language.
So, what would you say are the difficulties you ran into personally with the language barrier?
I could easily say once I walk out the door, I still deal with language barrier in the sense of there are business aspects. For example, some of you guys may be excellent in Spanish, but when it comes to contract negotiations or when it comes for example, signing a lease, you might be lost. Or you might be an individual that's good at speaking Espanol or speaking a foreign language, but you don't know how to read or write in that foreign language. So that's another learning curve that I found myself being involved in is still learning uh the writing part, leer. So some people can read Espanol, but they're not good at speaking Espanol or whatever language it may be. At the end of the day, you're still going to be involved in a lifetime of learning. And that's what you wanted. Guys don't realize this. Ladies don't realize this. You signed up for a new life. And since you signed up for a new life in a new country and new experiences, expect that learning curve to be there. Don't panic. Don't trip on it. Now, a lot of guys will say, "Well, Andre, you have an English speaking wife, so you're good." Andre is not with me 90% of the day. I've been living here for 6 years. 90% of the time, my wife is not with me. So my closest friends are Colombians. So I have had to learn to communicate with them. And it's kind of funny. The Spanish that doesn't kick in when I'm around my wife, Austin, it suddenly kicks in when I'm around all Spanish speakers. And now I understand what they're saying. They understand what I'm saying. So do realize, don't think that you can marry somebody or date somebody that's an English speaker and you can use them as a crutch. That's not true at all. I'm living proof that you're still going to have to go out here in the world, communicate with people, hang out with people, build up relationships with people. In that aspect, it gives you an opportunity to practice the language, to practice networking, and to practice speaking with a lower tone. For example, when you're in other countries, once again, as me and Austin were saying, Americans, we often stand out, first of all, not just how we dress or how we look, but the first thing that usually stands out with us, no matter what race or color creed coming from the United States, our vocal tones are far louder than most countries that we go to.
Okay, great answer. Salute to you as well, lead attorney. I see lead attorney is in the
I
chat.
see lead in there.
The the next question I have is about, local networking. So, what are your top tips for building a strong local network in a new country? I know you said your closest friends are Colombians. What are your tips for building a strong local network?
Well, now the first thing that I say is this. And I always, when you and I would talk about this off camera. Bring your routines to your new country. This is very important. Those that don't bring a routine usually get homesick and go back to whatever country they're in. What do I mean? If you go to the gym in the States, go to the gym in your new country. If you're a reader, and you'd like to go to the library in the States, go to the library in your new country. Get a library card in your new country. Whatever it is, I'm a public speaker. I like to play golf. We got 2 amazing golf courses here in Cali. I like to bowl, even though I'm horrible. So I'm going to the bowling alleys in Cali. So you'll find yourself meeting people at places in which you have a routine. You'll meet women and guys in the gym. You'll meet people when you're at the bowling alley or when you're at the golf course or wherever it may be that's a part of your daily routine. So don't forget to bring whatever routine of life that you have at home, bring that with you to another country, and that will be your door opener to meeting other people. Also, there are networking opportunities throughout different countries. For example, here in Colombia, you have Gringo Tuesdays all across Colombia. Every Tuesday, you have clubs that have specific meetups for foreigners and the locals. Foreigners and the local meet up on Gringo Tuesdays. Also, here in Colombia, just like in the States, you have meetup.com. I'm going to say that again. When you're in most countries have meetup.com. If you're a person that's into investments, or if you're a person that's into anime, if you're a person that's into podcasting or YouTubing, there's always a group of people that think like you, even in your new country. And you'll find them on meetup.com. I used to use meetup.com in the States, and that's how I found out about the podcasters when I was in Tampa. Also, I use meetup.com here in Colombia, and now I find out about the salsa classes and the salsa schools, and also Toastmasters International. It's called international for a reason, people. So if you're a public speaker, no matter what country you go to internationally, Toastmasters is usually there. And now you're meeting other people to practice the language with. At the same time, you're networking with a different quality of people that are out there. So there are so many opportunities that guys don't realize. And this is the last thing I want to say about this. If you're planning on living in a new country, guys, don't lean on the leisure you to open up the doors for you. What do I mean by that? There's a vacation you and there's a relocation you. Vacation you, hang out with the party girls and hang out with your homeboys that like to party and all. When you become a relocator to that new country, now you're looking at the country in a different way. You're not looking for just where the clubs are. You need to know where the best grocery stores are. Need to know where the hospitals are. You need to know where if you're going to send out packages, you need to know where all your do they have DSL? Do they have FedEx? You need to know where all that stuff is. The everyday local people that you become cool with will show you that. The party people that you hung out with when you were partying in a vacationer, they're 9 times out of 10 are going to show you that. They can tell you where the clubs are, they can tell you where the brothels are, but they won't necessarily be the ones that you want to use to share to find out how to find out where the local if you want to go to the local armory and you're like, you know what, I want to get a firearm or whatever it may be. So you're like, okay, let me find out where do I practice. You'll find out all that information from the locals. Why? Because now you're a relocator and not just a vacationer. The quality of women will be different. Why? Because the women that deal with you as a vacationer, as a guy that's only there for like 2 days to 2 weeks, going to be completely different from the women that come your way because you're a relocator and you're officially living in that country now. So it'd be a completely different breed of women that you're going to meet. So that's why I always say, guys, be ready to realize that there's a difference between the two, the vacation you and the relocation you.